Shalom, family. Most High Christ bless you all. Happy feast. Ladies, sisters, Most High Christ bless you all. It's beautiful. It's good. Even with the weather, it is one of my favorite high holy days that I get to come together with so many believers. And over the years, we've watched this movement, this Israelite movement, in particular IUIC, by the grace of the Most High, send these laborers into this harvest. So every year we come together, we see more faces, more people, and it's beautiful. Today we're going to go over a couple things. One in particular, I want to go over how many of you are celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles for the first time, by show of hand, men and women. Okay, good. All right, good. So we're going to go over the Feast of Tabernacles and what's about. By show of hands, how many of you understand? The Feast of Tabernacles, also called what? Stand up. Yeah, wait, okay, go ahead. It's also called what? And what else? Anybody else knows? Right here in the front?
Ingathering.
Feast of Ingathering. So we're going to go over that. We're going to explain for you what was the significance in the Feast of First Fruits, the Feast of the Passover, and the Feast of Booth or Tabernacle, or Ingathering, all right? Let's begin in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Who's going to read for me?
Cap. Yep.
23, let's start at verse 34.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 34. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. On the first day shall be a holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work therein. 7 days ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. On the 8th day shall be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. It is a solemn assembly, and ye shall do no servile work therein.
So the Feast of Tabernacle, we're not supposed to do servile work. It's a solemn assembly. It's serious. There's a reason why us coming together on the Feast of Tabernacle is serious. The word solemn means serious. And as we go through the scriptures, hopefully it'll be clear to you the reason why we keep these days. I know a lot of time we get together, we feast, we have a good time, we get a fellowship, but do we understand the significance in why we kept the day? What verse was that, Cap?
Verse 36.
Read on.
Verse 37. These are the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything upon his day.
So when you read back in the chapter, he began to explain to us these feast days and the reason why we kept them. Read that verse again, 37.
These are the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
We had to offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. Now we know today we don't sacrifice anymore. The sacrifice today is what?
Christ.
Right here. Ourselves are living. What scripture would you give me? Very good. The book of Romans chapter 12 and Sirach 35. We are the offering. We offer up our lives to Christ. Because Christ died for us now, we no longer live to ourselves, but we live to Christ. Everybody understands that, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the reason for keeping it then was to offer burnt offering to the Lord. It says a burnt offering, a meat offering, which a meat offering is not talking about flesh. The meat offering is talking about grain. There's a reason why I'm saying that for, is because when we talk about the Feast of Ingathering, it's gathering the crops, all right? A meat offering and a sacrifice, I'm sorry, I lost my place. A burnt offering, a meat offering, a sacrifice, that sacrifice is the animal sacrifice, and a drink offering, everything upon his day. Read on.
So Leviticus? Or you want
Yes, Leviticus.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 38. Beside the Sabbaths of the Lord, and beside your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your free will offerings, which ye give unto the Lord.
So on that day, back then, we gave gifts also. We gave the Lord a portion of our gathering that we took in, the first fruits of the beginning of the year harvest, which is first fruits, and at the end of year harvest. And we also gave free will offerings. Real quick, let's go to the book, hold this. Let's go to the book of Leviticus. Let's do a couple of them. Let's read Leviticus 2 first. 2 and 1. Explain the meat offering.
Leviticus chapter 2 verse 1. And when any will offer a meat offering unto the Lord, his offering shall be of fine flour, and he shall pour oil upon it, and put frankincense thereon.
So you heard it. It was a meat offering, but it was a fine flour. That was the meat offering. It was flour. All right? Now let's go up to the free will offering. Chapter 1, verse 3. About the cattle? Yes. 1 and 3.
Leviticus chapter 1 verse 3. If his offering be a burnt sacrifice of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish. He shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord.
That's a free will offering. You freely gave up some. So you give your offering a tenth back then. And then if you had more you wanted to, you would give the Lord a free will offering. Chapter 3, let's read verse 1.
Leviticus chapter 3 verse 1. And if his oblation be a sacrifice of peace offering, if he offer it of the herd, whether it be a male or female, he shall offer it without blemish before the Lord.
And that was a peace offering that you gave also. So you had free will offerings that you gave fully to the Lord. Then you also had peace offerings when you try to make peace between you and God. In case you have sinned against him unknowingly, you give him a peace offering. So there's a difference between a sin offering, a trespass offering, free will offering, meat offering. If you have a chance, when you have a chance, read Leviticus 1 through maybe like 10. All right, let's go back. Back in the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and I want to pick up verse 39.
Leviticus 23 verse 39. Also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. On the first day shall be a Sabbath, and on the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And ye shall take you on the first day the boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees, and the boughs of thick trees, and willows of the brook. And ye shall rejoice before the Lord your God 7 days.
Read.
And ye shall keep it a feast unto the Lord 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. Ye shall celebrate it in the 7th month.
Read.
Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days.
So stop right there. Notice, I'm going to start at verse 34. And I'm going to jump down. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of this 7th month, there shall be a feast of tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord. Jump on down to verse 39. Also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye shall have gathered in the first fruit, the fruit of the land, you shall keep a feast unto the Lord 7 days. So also on that 15th day, it was called what? Ingathering. Let's jump on down to, what's the last verse you read?
verse 41 now.
Verse 42. It says,
Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths.
so it said, all that was Israelite born shall dwell in booths. That's where we get Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Ingathering, Feast of Booths. All the same thing, somewhat. And we're going to explain in a second. So read that. Finish off in Leviticus, please.
That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths. When I brought them out of the land of Egypt, I am the Lord your God.
So he said we're going to dwell in booths, so he remembered so we will remember when he brought us out of the land of Egypt. What were we doing when we were in the wilderness? Anybody?
We were doing different things, but some of us were rebelling, some of us were sinning.
Maybe I asked the question wrong. Let me just say it because I can't ask questions right. We were migrating. So what would happen was we would set up the booth, we would live there for a minute, and then pick up and move again. Until we finally migrated until we got to our land. Everybody understand that? Also, with the tabernacles. The tabernacle, which became the temple, was movable. You had the priests, the Levites, they all had different offices. They had the poles, the sockets, the beams. They would take it down, reestablish it again, another place, until we finally got to the land. All right? So he told us that we were to dwell in booths. So let's go from that to Deuteronomy 16.
Verse 9. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn.
Okay, now watch this. The 7 weeks come at Pentecost, but watch, just read on.
And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with the tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand.
Well, it's good we started here, because here we go now. After Passover, you number 7 weeks plus a day, 50 days, and then you cut the first fruits, and you give an offering to God. And also you gave a free will offering along with it. Read on.
Which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according as the Lord thy God hath blessed thee.
According to what?
As the Lord thy God hath blessed thee.
Now, when it says according to how God has blessed thee, meaning your crops. If you had a good year and you brought an abundance of crops, you gave a little extra, or you should give a little extra. It's a free will offering. Watch this, read on.
And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to place his name there.
Now watch this. Verse 11. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son. Remember what we read earlier, that in verse 10. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of free will offering of thine hand. It's a tribute of free will offering that you gave. But look who benefited from it. Your son, your daughters, your manservants that worked from you, thy maidservants that worked for you, the Levites. Why? Because they got an offering. It says the strangers and the fatherless. So the strangers were Israelites, Leviticus 25, that did not have an inheritance, or that lost their land because of poverty or whatever it might have been. Remember, they would glean off of your land. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. The fatherless, those that were our fathers, you took care of. The widow, you took care of. That are among you in the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to place his name there. So this was going to happen in Jerusalem. We're going to hold this and come right back here. I want to go to the book of Tobit. Tobit 1 and 6.
This is the book of Tobit in the Apocrypha, the first chapter and the 6th verse. But I alone went often to Jerusalem at the feast.
Which feast did he go to? Passover, Pentecost, or Feast of First Fruits, and the year-ending feast, Feast of Ingathering, or Feast of Tabernacles. Read on.
As it was ordained unto all the people of Israel by an everlasting decree, having of the first fruits and the tenths of increase, which was first shorn, and them gave I at the altar to the priests, the children of Aaron.
So what did he do? He brought that offering to the priests. The Levites got blessed by it. Read on.
The first 10th part of all increase I gave to the sons of Aaron, who ministered at Jerusalem. Another 10th part I sold away.
So he went with another 10th part. He sold it in Jerusalem, got money, and did what?
And went and spent it every year at Jerusalem.
So he took in money, and then he came to Jerusalem, and he spent. And many people traveled into Jerusalem, and they spent. Now, when they traveled to Jerusalem for the Feast of Increase, the Feast of Year End, or Feast of Ingathering, where did they stay? Where did Tobit stay? Year End Feast, right here. The Feast of Ingathering. Where did he stay? He stayed in the booth. And they came, and he had commerce in the city, buying and selling, sold his stuff, and spent money there. Now read on.
And the third I gave unto them to whom it was meet, as Deborah my father's mother had commanded me, because I was left an orphan by my father.
So he was fatherless. So like his Deborah told him, he went there, he took care of the widows, the poor, as his grandmother or his mother, his father's mother, Deborah, told him to. She told him to based on what? What we're reading in Deuteronomy, the 16th chapter. Everybody following? Yes, sir. Okay. Let's go back. Deuteronomy 16:15, I'm sorry.
Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 15. 7 days shalt thou keep a solemn feast unto the Lord thy God, in the place which the Lord shall choose, because the Lord thy God shall bless thee in all thine increase, and in all the works of thine hands. Therefore thou shalt surely rejoice.
So it says, the Lord blessed you and increased by the work of your hands. The work you did back then when you grazed crops, you raised cattle, and God blessed you, you gave back. Read on.
3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God, in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty.
Read on.
Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee.
And every man give as he is able, according to how God has blessed them in increase. So let's talk about a little bit about this now. Yes, Exodus 23, verse 16.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 16. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field.
So this time of year would be the feast of ingathering, the year-end gathering of your crops. You would take it in, and you would hold it over through the winter months. Now, why would you need God to bless you? Your crops. Your crops is grown. They're fully grown. Everything is good. You reap your crops. Why would you need God to bless you at that point? I want you to think. Right here.
So that you can have enough food to last you through that winter time.
Okay. So that food can last you through the winter. Now, the curses against us. If we kept the commandments, God was blessing us. Correct? If we broke the commandments, God was going to do what? Okay. Deuteronomy 28th chapter.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 59. Then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues, and of long continuance, and sore sicknesses, and of long continuance.
Lord said, then the Lord will make thy plagues wonderful, and thy plagues of thy seed, even great plagues. The Lord said he's going to make your plagues wonderful. Even the plagues of thy seed. Now, I know when you think seed, you're thinking about your child. No. Why? Why am I saying that for? Jump back in the same chapter. I want you to read verse 23.
Verse 23. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed.
So now imagine now. What does it mean, before I say it, because maybe I'm going to give it away. What does it mean when the Lord said, and thy heavens that is over thee, and thy heavens that is over thy head shall be as brass, and the earth that is under thy feet shall be as iron? What does that mean? That's it? All you country people don't know that? Grew up in the country? All right, give me. So, right, young man right here with the garment on. No, not you. Right here. Yeah. No, right there. In the back, you. Yeah. Nope. Let's go. All right, somebody else who's from the country? All right, right there. Gentlemen, I can see an older gentleman with the beard. Not you. Not you young. I know you. Hey, like that. Yeah, explain it to me. How do he give us water? Right. The Lord's going to, that's the answer. The Lord's going to shut off the rain. Then your ground become as iron. No seed, nothing is yielded, coming back to you. So this is the importance of keeping these days.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 22. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish.
So what is that talking about? Help me understand the feast of ingathering, the feast of first fruits, these feast days. Who had their hand up? Nobody? Very good. Very good. Very good. So it says right here, and the Lord shall smite thee with consumption. What is consumption again? Ain't that like influenza, something like that? Somebody look up consumption. I forgot what it was.
Devour.
Huh?
Devour. Something devour.
No. With a consumption. Consumption is a sickness. What's it like influenza, something like that. But watch this. And the Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with an inflammation, and extreme burning, and with the sword, huh? Tuberculosis. Close enough, right? Tuberculosis. It says, how do you get tuberculosis?
Oh, tuberculosis, I think, is a bacteria. I think it's something that is in.
Now watch this. And with the blasting and with the mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. Now the brother said, your crops. Now if you got crops that pick up mildew now, and you're eating that stuff, there comes a disease. So let me ask you a question now. When you, this month, October, for us, you gather and you're taking all your crops. What do you do with it?
Store.
Deuteronomy 28. What verse is that? I forgot.
17.
17. Yeah.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 17.
Start with 16.
Verse 16. Cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store.
Curse will be your basket and your store. Your basket and your store is where you store your food. So throughout the whole season, you got to put that stuff away. Now, you brothers from the country should understand that, those that farm before, that you can gather all these crops. But if you don't know how to store it, roaches, all kind of vermins go in it, they'll eat it, they will poop and pee in it, and then you eat it, and then consumption, fever, inflammation, blasting, whatever it is, shall pursue thee. So that's why it was important. When the Lord blessed your crops and gave you, you made sure you gave back. You made sure you brought this offering. You made sure you was pleased to come to the Feast of Tabernacles to thank the Lord to give you a place to come and worship Him.
That's right.
You're like, dang, I got a place I can worship 3 times a year. That's it? That's all you want, Lord? I'll be there all 3 times a year, and I'm not going to come empty-handed. Because when you go back home, and that sky won't crack, then you be looking for the Lord. And the worst thing I can imagine is to go through the year, this time of year, and you don't yield no crop. And what you gonna do all winter? What you gonna eat? You ain't going to the same, no Walmart. Your land is your land. Real quick, hold this, Leviticus 25 about the poor. So the reason I'm going through like this, because I want everybody to get a full grasp of what this feast day is about and how we're to be appreciative of all the Lord has done. Because generally with us, when Joshua waxed fat, we don't consider. But the Lord doesn't have nothing in the Bible just for no reason. It's there for a reason. Leviticus 25, the stranger, right? But the field of the suburbs of the city not be so. Verse 35. 25:35.
Leviticus chapter 25, verse 35. And if thy brother be waxen poor, and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee.
So if your brother has fallen a waxen poor, why do they call him a stranger? That's why when you read the New Testament, you hear strangers someplace, you be thinking it's other nations. No. Now, there are strangers when we read the Bible, like in Joshua 8 or whatever, that's talking about the other nations. But here, it's a brother waxing poor. They said you're to relieve him, though he be a stranger. Why is he considered a stranger? Well, okay, let's go back. I'll explain it. Verse 25.
Leviticus 25, verse 25. If thy brother be waxen poor, and hath sold away some of his possession.
Stop. If a brother have waxed him poor and sold away some of his possessions, some of his land, he can no longer live on it. Now here, why would you sell away your land? Maybe you've been sinning against God and God has cursed your land. He's not allowing you to yield fruit. Listen, if you can't raise crops, you can't raise animals. They got to eat something. You don't got no corn, no nothing growing. That's why it says he gives us a land flowing with milk and honey, a land that was fertile. So now a brother's waxing poor, and everybody around is growing, everybody's eating, and you ain't. You're like, okay, you're sinning against God, right? Something must be wrong. Why you can't yield fruit? Okay, I'm going to come back to today's time with people, with us. Jump back to verse 35.
Verse 35. And if thy brother be waxen poor, and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee.
Once he has to come off of his land and live with somebody else, he's a stranger. He's a sojourner. Once we made to the land and we had our own land, keeping the commandments was of most important for us to survive as a people. And like today, our key to the kingdom and survival is the keeping of God's commandments. Now watch this. Jump on down to 39.
Verse 39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bondservant, but as a hired servant, and as a sojourner he shall be with thee, and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee. And then shall he depart from thee, both he and his children with him, and shall return unto his own family, and unto the possessions of his fathers shall he return.
Right back to his land. So you were able to hold the land to the year of Jubilee and hold him into labor unto then. Now, when you're like that, at least back then, God was punishing you for a reason. Move off your land. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. What was the last verse you read, Captain?
Consumption and mildew.
Curse shall be that basket in that store. Okay, what's this? Verse 18.
Verse 18, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 18. Curse shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of thy land, the increase of thy kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and cursed shalt thou be when thou goest out.
So now let's go back up 18. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body, the fruit of thy land, the fruit of thy kind, and of the flock of thy sheep. Why is God putting all those together? Why is he saying curse will be your child? Curse will be your fruit. Curse will be your animals.
Because if your fruit and your animals and your vegetation is cursed, your children are going to starve, and so will you.
There you go. They're going to suffer. Oh, you got crowd mics? Thank you. They're going to suffer also. So look at the trickle down impact of sin against God. If you're cursed in your field, your kind and your cattle don't have nothing to eat. They're going to starve. Likewise, your seed is going to starve from your body. So 3 times a year, all males must appear and bring forth if you want to keep it going. These high holy days, especially these 3 that God has mentioned, is because it was integral. 1, in taking care of the priest. 2, in taking care of yourself and your family line. This was observant that he wanted. 3, ultimately, because the Most High's will was it that we bring an offering to him. But he doesn't give us nothing for nothing. So for all of us that made it, like today, we know we don't sacrifice, but for all of us that made it a point to come together is because we compelled of God to come together. This is a holy convocation. So all of you travel as far as you traveled, God bless you all. You all made it safe here. God bless you all. You all make it back safe. And we go back to our season. We continue to keep these commandments and look forward to these days.
Exodus chapter 34, verse 22. And thou shalt observe the feast of weeks, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end. Thrice in the year shall all your men children appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. For I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders. Neither shall any man desire thy land when thou shalt go up to appear before the Lord thy God thrice in a year.
So 3 times a year we have to observe it. It says, and thou shalt observe the feast of weeks, which is Pentecost, of the first fruits of wheat harvest, the feast of ingathering at the year's end. So I was asking about the feast of ingathering at year's end, which we're keeping today. Let's go from that. Watch this. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, verse 10.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 10. Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
Read on.
And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. And ye shall offer that day when ye wave the sheaf, an he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto the Lord. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto the Lord for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, and the 4th part of an hin. And ye shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears, until the selfsame day that ye have brought an offering unto your God. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings.
So, what does this have to do? Because this is talking about the Feast of First Fruits. What does this have to do with the Feast of Tabernacles or Ingathering or booths? There's one word in there I want to pull out. Verse 14. And ye shall eat neither bread, nor parched corn, nor green ears until the self same day that ye have brought an offering unto the Lord. The parched corn. Now remember, this is the beginning of the year. Remember, after Passover, you have the first bud that grows, the first fruits you yield, and then you're sitting on parched corn. Where did that parched corn come from? Why do you parch corn in the first place? To preserve it. Preserve it from when? From last year. This year, right now, you would take that corn, you would parch it, and you will hold it over so you can eat and have it for the following spring. And you had to bring this offering, Joshua 5. Oh, here you go, Joshua 5 and 11.
Joshua chapter 5 verse 11. And they did eat of the old corn.
What?
Old corn.
They ate of the old corn.
Of the land on the morrow after the Passover.
Right. That's what we just read in Leviticus 23. On the morrow after the Passover, they ate the old corn. The corn that came from this feast, the Feast of Ingathering. And guess what? If you was cursed of God, your basket and store would have been cursed. You wouldn't have no old corn. You wouldn't have no corn. You might have ended up with a consumption, or a fever, or mildew, or blotch, or whatever you got. So they ate, read again.
And they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover.
Read on.
Unleavened cakes and parched corn in the selfsame day.
Read on.
And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna any more, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year.
So they no longer need manna. They was able to eat the fruit of the land. Maybe it says when you come into the land, you're going to reap from the land. Now you got to give, now you have to give back to me. So they was able to harvest once they made to the land, eat of the old corn, and then, like we read here, they said you could not eat until you brought that offering to God.
Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 6. No man shall take the nether or the upper millstone to pledge, for he taketh a man's life to pledge.
What does that mean? Anybody know what that means? Shadon, Officer Shadon.
The millstone was. Shalom, Bishop. Shalom, leadership. The millstone was used to grind the parched corn.
Right. It was all the wheat. It says you were not to take a man's millstone. I'm sorry, I lost my place again, Captain. Just help me.
Verse 6.
Thank you.
No man shall take the nether or the upper millstone to pledge, for he taketh a man's life to pledge.
Now, when the Lord had to tell us that you could not take a man's millstone, you know the millstone, a big round stone that went to grind the flour or grind the wheat into flour or the corn. It says you were not to take it to pledge. What does it mean, not to take it to pledge?
Shalom, Bishop. Meaning don't take that as collateral because that's how he's going to feed his family.
Right. It was imperative that you had it. Why would somebody now want to pawn off their millstone? Why? Because they come across hard times. Why are they in hard times for? It could be because of sin. God now is what? It's on to plague them. It says never take it, because if you take it to pledge, how can they ever pay you back? That was their lifeline, that millstone. They raise crops. The crops mean nothing if you can't grind it down into flour to sell so you can make bread, you can eat, you can trade. It says you were not to take them. That's why it says we could not take usury of our brother. That's like right now, brothers running hard times, working a job, trying to make his way, he need a loan. All right, I'll give you a loan, but you got to give me keys for your car. But I can't get to work to pay you back. So that millstone was integral in us surviving. So when it says you can't take neither, no man shall take the neither nor the upper millstone. That was the other weighted rock that was on it to help push around. If you took one or the other, you would bankrupt somebody. They couldn't make it. I just want to go over that so you guys get an understanding concerning that. Now, the booths, real quick. The book of Nehemiah, the 8th chapter.
Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 14. And they found written in the law which the Lord had commanded by Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths in the feast of the 7th month, and that they should publish and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, Go forth unto the mount, and fetch olive branches, and pine branches, and myrtle branches, and palm branches, and branches of thick trees, to make booths, as it is written. So the people went forth, and brought them, and made themselves booths, every one upon the roof of his house, and in their courts, and in the courts of the house of God, and in the street of the water gate, and in the street of the gate of Ephraim. And all the congregation of them that were come again out of the captivity made booths, and sat under the booths. For since the days of Joshua the son of Nun unto that day, had not the children of Israel done so, and there was a very great gladness. Also day by day, from the first day unto the last day, he read in the book of the law of God. And they kept the feast of they kept the feast 7 days, and on the 8th day was a solemn assembly, according unto the manner.
So the first and last days were solemn assemblies. But what I want to pull out of that, and I'm going to start back up in verse 14, verse 15, and that they should publish and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, Go forth unto the mount, and fetch olive branches, and pine branches, and myrtle branches, and palm branches, branches of thick trees, and make booths, as it is written. So the people went forth and brought them, and made themselves booths, every one upon the roof of his house. So those that lived in Jerusalem, they made the booths on the roofs of their house. Those that came into the city, they made booths around the city, around about. Because remember, 3 times a year must all male appear and come before the Most High. And we made those booths for what reason? We read it earlier.
Made those booths to remember when we came out of Egypt and was in the wilderness.
To remember when we came out of Egypt and thank the Most High. So we thank the Most High for the tabernacles he gave us, for the feast of ingathering, for the crops that we gave us, and remember the booths that we gave us. He gave us Passover to remember the deliverance we had in the time of Passover. He wants us to keep remembering where we were at. He wants to remember, I led you out of Egypt. And when I led you out of Egypt, I allowed you to survive in the wilderness for 40 years. And I taught you how to make booths so you can cover yourself and have protection. And then when you came out of there, I gave you a land. But I didn't just give you no land, I gave you a land flowing with milk and honey. And now I want something back in return for that. I want you to bring offerings to me. God doesn't give nothing. God doesn't do anything for nothing. He's giving, but he's expecting something back in return. All lives are lent to us.
That's right.
So he gives us something and that's fair trade. He wants something back in return. And today what he's asking from us is all a lot. What are you doing right now is you're giving back to God by keeping these days. Calling them to remembrance. Or you go to church and celebrate Christmas. See how it works for you. God wants something back. He's a God, he's a merciful, loving God, but he wants payment. Joshua 5:11, Judges 5:11, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then find that one in the pocket for all life was lent to us. The word lent. Judges, in the meanwhile. The word lent is there. Judges 5:11.
This is the book of Judges, chapter 5 and verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water.
The place of drawing water is right here. And we're being delivered. Read that again, I'm sorry.
They that are delivered from the noise of archers.
We are being delivered from the noise of archers. Meaning what? From destruction. Right now, you mean people getting killed killed by cops in the streets. Thank the Most High. Why do you think that's not happened to us? Why do you think we don't have, and all praise to the Most High, we don't have those issues where we see one of us getting shot down in the street like that by cops? Why do you think those things are not happening to us in this congregation? Because you're keeping the commandments. Psalms 91. Don't roll your eyes when you see the destruction. We're being delivered because today, where we at? Ain't none of us was at the club last night, right? So it didn't get shot up. Hopefully. Well, nobody here, I prayed, nobody here was at the club last night. None of us out right now trying to sell a bag of weed or buy a bag of weed or do some. We here keeping God's commandments. There's safety in God's commandments. They that are delivered from the noise of the orchards. You find that?
Yeah, Wisdom 15 and 8.
Find it. Thank you. Read on.
There shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord.
And that's what we're doing right now. We are rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord. We're going to keep these days in the kingdom too to remember. There, we're going to rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord. So we're going to keep the Feast of First Fruits. We're going to keep Passover. We're going to keep Feast of Ingathering, Pentecost, Tabernacles. I meant to say Pentecost. Feast of Booths. Because we're going to rehearse these days. And in them is a safety. And applying them is where the safety comes in.
2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 14. For the love of Christ constraineth us.
Because the love of Christ will constrain us, holds us back. Read on.
Because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we're all dead.
That Christ died for us, that all the old man in us is dead. All women are dead. Read on.
And that he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves.
You no longer live to yourselves. You no longer live to what you used to do on this day today. Out playing sport, whatever you did, whatever you was doing. You no longer do that anymore. It takes a certain level of fear and reverence of God and Christ to pack your stuff up, drive from wherever you came from, to sacrifice your time. Those here in Oklahoma, and I want to all praise to the Most High for brothers and sisters here in Oklahoma, for the hospitality. Sometimes you guys go above and beyond. Above and beyond. You can clap for them because all praise to the Most High. Okay. Say it again. But no, seriously, it takes a certain level of love and fear and reverence of the Most High and love of unity and brotherhood to travel into your cities. Because it costs, yeah, go ahead. Because it costs money and time, but you all understand the importance, the severity of keeping God's laws. Read on. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And she brought forth her firstborn son.
Come on.
And wrapped him in swaddling clothes.
Read.
And laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn.
In the inn, because our people were civilized. They had places like you come into town, you could stay. They had rooms or whatever the case may be. But they were all taken up. I got a question. What was going on around this time, and where were people staying? One person is catching what I'm saying right now. 2, 3. You right here. Yeah, you. Stand up. Go ahead.
There was dwelling in a boot
Why?
because it was around that time. It wasn't Passover yet. It was coming around the time to be Passover.
Right. When the people traveled in and there was no rooms left around Passover, what were they dwelling in? Booths. They were dwelling in booths, just like, look at us, right? Let me just use this, sister, I ain't forgetting about you. But just this right here. Imagine it says it's a requirement for all the men of Israel to come and report to Jerusalem. Where do you think they was going to sleep in? So Passover, guess what? They were sleeping in booths. Feast of First Fruits, they were sleeping in booths. And everybody was in booths come to Tabernacles. 3 times a year we had to appear before the Lord. So this right here should kind of let you know as far as what was going on around that time. And yes, they were outside. and it wasn't as cold as it is now. I know y'all feel that Hulk right now, don't y'all? Y'all better stay in the spirit. I felt it. That wind blew, and when I dropped down a little bit, everybody else dropped too. It was like, ooh. All praises. That was my point. I'm sorry. Here you go, Bishop.
Real quick, go back to because Bishop was bringing something out, and I know a lot of new people are always asking about just a lot of the high holy days, right? And I know we go over the history and the significance of it, but I still think a lot of what you said kind of went over a lot of people's head in the remembrance of thing. Get me Leviticus 23. Let's go back there real quick. Get 43.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 43. That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths.
Right, so 42 saying we're going to dwell in the booths, right? All that are born shall dwell in booths. He said that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths. Go ahead.
When I brought them out of the land of Egypt, I am the Lord your God.
Egypt means bondage, correct? So the significance of us being here in all these tents, you have to remember, you need to be meditating and reminding you, the Lord is trying to remind you that we are still on that journey. We ain't home. Just like when we were in the wilderness 40 years, he's putting it on us what? Now with the curses, just like everything they brought out. That's still via the Lord. He set those powers up over us, right? It was a righteous judgment, but we're dwelling in booths because this is not our rest. Give me that in Micah 2. You have to understand that. This is a reminder to remember that we are still not home. Some of us are what? Comfortable. We're used to the things that this place provides for us. I'm telling you, especially us here in America, brothers who've been traveling internationally, you see the conditions our people living in over there. I've been saying, we think we the house Negroes of Israel here in America, right? We got it good. But we really got it. We talk about affliction over here. We got it good over here. And y'all need to let that resonate with you, especially when you're teaching this stuff to your kids. And you know, why are we intense? Oh, don't let it just be that it's the camping holiday, right? It's the one where we light the candles holiday, all right? Oh, it's the one where you know, we were going to the park and having a barbecue holiday. Make sure they understand we all need to keep that in our head, the significance of it. We dwelling in booths as a reminder that we still not home. We still not in the promised land. This is not your rest. Read that. You got that, Micah 2 and 10.
Micah chapter 2, verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest.
This is not your rest. Go ahead.
Because it is polluted. It shall destroy you.
It is polluted. This place will destroy you if you get too comfortable, too complacent. This is a beautiful holiday to put you in that spirit of mind to remember what? That we are still on that journey. We have not yet reached that promised land. Put you in remembrance that we dwelling in booths because when we came out of Egypt, out of bondage, we still had a long way to go to purge things out before we would be right for that. It goes with Judges 5 and 11. We are rehearsing the righteous acts in this polluted land that will destroy you if you don't stay on point, on guard. And the Feast of Tabernacles should put you in remembrance of that.
This is the book of St. John, chapter 7, verse 2. Now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles was at hand. His brethren therefore said unto him, Depart hence, and go into Judea, that thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest.
Now watch this. Start with verse 1.
After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, because the Jews sought to kill him.
So Christ was rolling Galilee. He's like, listen, I can't be in Jerusalem. These Negroes want to kill me. But look what he says. Read on.
Now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles was at hand.
Now, a Feast of Tabernacle was coming up. Read on.
His brethren therefore said unto him, Depart hence, and go into Judea.
Hey, let me tell you, brothers, was a piece of work. It's like, depart hence, not going to Judea. Because it's a feast day. All males must appear in Jerusalem. I tell you, boy, we are the people of this Bible, boy. I said, yeah, okay. Depart hence. The feast is at hand. Christ, read on.
That thy disciples also may see the works that thou doest.
That the disciples may see the work that you're doing. So the point I want out of it is that his brothers were telling him the feast is coming up. Now go to Jerusalem. We kept the Feast of Tabernacles. All right? And that's, say it again, that's the New Testament. For those who don't think it, church is a joke. If any of you strictly go to church right now, God bless your dumb self, man. You gotta be crazy to be in church. Church don't teach you nothing about the Bible. And you all know that, right? Christianity's a drug.
Shalom. This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us, subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcasts, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www.israelunite.org.